Hi, my name is Kyle Jetzel, and I wanted to create a quick video tonight because recently I posed a question on a Facebook page, and it made me realize how many people are really struggling out there, and some of the replies that I got floored me. And let me just tell you, the question I posed was this: what is your biggest frustration with yourself, and how does that possibly cause you problems or frustrations when raising and supporting your wonderful children? So the question here was really about what is your biggest frustration with yourself, not with your child, your autistic child, or who you serve, but yourself personally. And some of the responses really kind of shook me, because as I was reading them, I was really just reliving a lot of those experiences with those people that had responded. I mean, I felt the same way. I've experienced a lot of the same feelings that I was reading about. And it got to the point where I almost wished I hadn't asked, because I was flooded with a lot of painful memories. And it really, some of those things, it was pretty interesting. Let me read to you some of the responses I heard, because I'm sure you can align yourself with these things. So first, Heather said, "Sometimes I'm not as patient as I wish I could be." And haven't we all been there, right? When things go wrong, we just lose our patience. And Kathy Joe said, "My son is 13. I sometimes push him too hard to fit into the neurotypical world. It comes from my anxiety about people judging him and me, instead of letting him be and do what comes natural to him, and not care about people judging me as a mom of an ASD child. Telling him to sit still and not fidget in restaurants, make eye contact, stop humming, etc. I always feel so guilty afterwards." Right? You've probably felt that way before. Or Stacy, who said, "My biggest frustration with myself is that my whole world revolves around autism. Obviously your world should revolve around your kids, but it's to the point where other relationships around me suffer." My wife and I were having this same conversation just a few nights ago about this exact same thing. And Demetria followed up her comment by saying, "Wow, Stacy, this made my eyes watery, because that's exactly how I feel." So I think a lot of us have felt that way, isolation, based on the fact that we have to spend so much time and energy supporting and raising those kids. And then Jennifer said, "I feel like I'm not doing enough. At the end of the day, I feel very disappointed. More in me than anything else. I'm not sure how to get over that hurdle." That's a tough one, isn't it? Or Jillian, who said, "I've learned I'm way too concerned with what other people think." Yeah, she's kind of like Kathy. "I really should be more concerned with my daughter feeling overwhelmed when she has meltdowns in public. But I find myself more focused on the people who are staring and what I perceive as judging my parenting." Right? I'm going to tell you a story about how I experienced that here in a second. And Cheryl, who said, I'm sleep deprived and my patience is running thin." And you can probably see the tiredness in my eyes tonight, and I'll tell you why. "Between work and home, I'm running on fumes." And a lot of us, I'm sure, feel that way. And then finally, Stephanie said, "My biggest frustration with myself is that I did not know more about autism when my son was young. I did what I believed right, but had I known more, I believe he would have come a lot further." And so those are some of the kinds of responses I saw. And as I was reading some of these to my wife, she said to me, "You've got to do something to help these women and to help these people who are responding, because we in our family have learned some tricks and techniques that help us to thrive, even as we experience difficult situations, and in doing so, have really kind of moved away from a lot of the pain and suffering and really replaced it with happiness and joy and really energy." And I'm going to tell you how we did that. So that's why I'm making this video tonight. I don't even know if I told you my name. My name is Kyle Jetzel, and I have 6 kids. 2 of them, my 16-year-old son and my 13-year-old son, are autistic. And I have, the rest are boys, except for my youngest is a little girl, a twin, and they're 7 years old. So that's who I am, so you'll know kind of where I'm coming from. So the 3 things I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to tell you first, I still experience the kinds of events in my life that can make you tired or disgusted or frustrated or like you're running on fumes. And as a matter of fact, today when I got home from work, I could hear some screaming coming from Eric's room upstairs. And my wife was up there trying to calm my son down. He was in a full-blown meltdown. You know what I'm talking about. And he's 16 now, and he's just about as tall as me, and he's probably stronger than me. And so he can become kind of frightening and kind of aggressive in his movements. And so Luckily, my wife and I have created some techniques that allow us to manage him in a way so he doesn't get physical with us. He did at one point, but we were able to work through that. Now, and I'm not saying everybody can, but what I am saying is because of what some of the techniques we applied, we were able to bring him back to he still gets angry, he still gets frustrated, he still acts like he wants to be physical. But when I ran upstairs and I kind of rescued her, she was right there and he was screaming at her. And so I stepped in and he started screaming at me, and he gets angrier at me than he does at her. And I think it's because maybe she's a woman and he feels maybe somehow it's worse to threaten her. And so as I tried to calm him down, he was screaming, he was pointing his finger in my face and spit screaming. I mean, I could feel the spit in my face. I could smell his breath. It was horrible. And I'm smiling because we've developed a technique that allows me to stay calm and cool and collected. And as he was doing this, I was saying, it's okay, buddy. I want to help. I'm here for you. I'm not going anywhere. And the madder he got, the calmer I got, until he finally realized that he could come down from his meltdown. And we sat down together on the bed. And I put my arm around him and he said, I'm sorry. And I said, I know it's okay. And he said, I'm an idiot. And I said, no, you're not. We all have problems sometimes, and we'll work it out together. And so the reality is we were able to, and that's the second thing I want to talk about, is we've been able as a family to create a way to thrive. And when situations that can cause you to be frustrated or tired or discouraged or feel like you can't go on anymore, we've taken those things and flipped them on their head. And so what I want to share with you is the third thing is this. And I'm going to share with you a technique. Now we have tons of techniques, tons of different ways to manage our kids. And I actually have, like I said, a full video series of those. But this one today I want to talk about is a technique that we call the E.M.E technique. And it stands for event, meaning, and emotion. And I'll explain what that really means by telling you a story about a few years ago when my twins were about 3, and I guess Ricky and Eric were about 7 and 9 or 10. My wife decided to have a girls' night in where she invites all her friends over. And my job when that happens is to leave and take all the kids with me for at least 2 hours so she can have some time alone with them. And I'm happy to do that. I love my wife. And so I'm happy to do that. But on this occasion, my 2 oldest sons were dating age and had decided to go on a double date together. And so it was me, my 2 autistic sons, and the twins, like I said, who were about 3. So I was a little nervous because all my kids at that point were runners. You know what I'm talking about, right? You get out of the car, they take off. And so I wanted to take them somewhere where I could isolate them and kind of keep my hands around them. They couldn't get away. So we chose a Burger King playland a couple of miles from our house. And has big, nice playland, and there's only one way to get in and out. There is an exit door on the back, and I'll tell you why that matters here in a second. But as we walked in, the place was packed. And so we squeezed in a corner booth, me and all the kids, and I sent the kids off to play, and I kind of got their food ready. And after a few seconds, I mean literally a few seconds, I hear this loud screeching sound, and it was the back door alarm. And if you've ever heard one of those back door alarms, it is piercing. It's just you can imagine what it's like. And all the kids ran to their parents, and they all started pointing at Eric and said, he did it, he did it, he did it, right? And so Eric and Ricky came running over to me with their hands over their ears because they have problems with hearing, with loud noises kind of overstimulate them. And they ran to me looking real scared, and I said, did you press the bar, Eric? And he didn't really understand. He's a little bit verbal, not completely. He can say a few words. And so I realized very quickly that he didn't understand. So I said, let's not touch the bar anymore, okay? And I gave him a kiss and I sent him on his way. Right? And as I looked up and looked around, I could see all the faces and all the parents just staring at me with these piercing stares, right? And you know what I'm talking about, because I'm sure you've experienced it when you've had when one of your kids has had a meltdown in public. People just, they stare holes right through you. Well, you know, I thought it was going to be okay, and so I kind of kept an eye on Eric. Well, then the alarm went off again, and I thought it couldn't be Eric, and I look over, and here comes Ricky, my other son that's autistic. Remember, I have 2. And both of them have their hands over their ears, and I said, Ricky, did you press that bar? And he's a little bit more verbal, and he said, bar? And I realized he wasn't really making the connection either. So I gave him a kiss, and I hugged him, and I said, I love you. Go have fun, okay? And he ran off and had fun, right? Well, no kidding. Over the next 15 minutes, that alarm went off 7, 8, 9 times. Constantly was going off. And every time it did, the whole place would stare me down, right? And I don't think I'm that intimidating looking, but apparently I am, because nobody would really say anything to me But they all just kind of stared at me every time it went off, and all the kids would point at my sons. And each time they did it, I would bring them over and I would kiss them and hug them and I'd say, go have fun. Because what I noticed was that people started leaving, right? I guess setting off an alarm consistently sends people out of there. And I didn't really have a problem with that. The reality was it was emptying out. And my kids had more room and they could be themselves and have a great time. Well, after about 15 or 20 minutes, it was me and one other couple with 2 boys. Everybody else had left the Burger King. And so I was sitting there and I thought, this is the way to go, right? I got it done. Even if they set off the alarm, it doesn't really matter. These guys over here seem to be okay. Well, the father of that family came walking over to me and I thought, well, here we go, right? He's going to say something and I'm ready. I'll just explain to him kindly if I can. I was feeling a little edgy because I'd been stared at and what I felt like judged by so many people. And he leaned into me and he said, do your boys have special needs? And I said, you know what? Those 2 right there are autistic. And he said, you know what? I watched you. And what you did was awesome. And he said, he shook my hand and he said, I have a sister who has an autistic son. And she won't take him anywhere. She won't go anywhere. Because every time she goes somewhere and he does something awkward, people stare at her and they do what everybody was doing to you. He said, but you didn't care. You hugged your kids, you kissed your kids, and you sent them out and you smiled at everybody. You just showed them and you just did what you should have done. Your kids felt loved and they knew that they were important to you. You didn't even care. Could you call my sister and tell her how you did that? Right? And so I was really excited. And as a matter of fact, I did call his sister and we talked about it. And I'm going to share with you how we use the E.M.E principle in that situation. Remember, the E was for event, the M was for meaning, and the last E was for emotion. So let me tell you how that works now and how I used it in that situation. So the event obviously was going to Burger King Playland and them setting off the alarms, right? So what I decided a long time ago, and this is one of the techniques we use in our family, is that we decide what events mean. We get to interpret events however we want to. Now in this case, I didn't particularly interpret that event to my advantage. I looked around, everybody was staring, and I felt attacked, which really doesn't create a good emotion in me, right? But so I was able to, the next step for me was to apply meaning to it. What is my meaning to this situation? And so what I decided is that, you know what? I love my kids. They need to feel happy and comfortable. They're not hurting anybody. They're not trying to make people upset. They don't really understand what's going on, so I can't treat them harshly, so I'm going to love them. And the meaning for me is I'm a good father. My kids love me. They know I love them. They know they're free to be themselves in the situation. And so I applied that meaning, and the reality was that the emotion, which is the last E that came from that meaning for me, was a happy emotion. As I watched my sons play and set off the alarms, it made me smile. And that emotion gave me energy, right? And so the event I didn't really handle very well because the reality was I could have been wrong. I could have decided that event meant we're all here together and my kids are going to play just like yours and I don't really care if you judge me or not, but I didn't. But the reality was absolutely at least one person or one family in there was not judging me. As a matter of fact, they had a different meaning for that event. They saw me as a good father who was managing his kids and who was loving his kids as everybody else was staring, right? So even though I didn't apply the right, I really didn't interpret the event properly, at least I was able to get to a good meaning for myself so that I could be productive. So, and I want to share that with you because the reality is this: when you determine that the event, if you interpret it the wrong way, you're going to create bad emotions for yourself, and those bad emotions result in the kinds of things I read to you a while ago. You're tired, you're disgusted, you're frustrated, you feel bad about yourself, right? But if you apply a good emotion, and you can do that through the event or the meaning, and in my case, the meaning for me was I'm a good father, and my kids love me, and they know they're loved. They know they're special. And for me, that meaning was created a good emotion. And you could probably see me stand up straight when I said that because I feel those emotions. And so those good emotions make me buoyant, right? They make me happy. They make me feel fulfilled. Just like when Eric, when I came home today and he had a meltdown. I went in there and I handled him with love and kindness. And I was patient. And you know what? When he came down on the other side, and I walked out of that room, I felt great. And I used a different technique today that I'll share in my videos with you if you want to. But the reality is this. When you can interpret the event in a different way that creates good emotions, you can be uplifted, even as things get difficult, right? Or if you can apply different meaning to events. If you decide the meaning is different, if you're like Stacy, my biggest frustration is that my whole world revolves around autism. Obviously, your world should revolve around your kids, but it's to the point where our relationships around me suffer, right? So what she's doing, the event is this. She's focused so much on her child, which to me is glorious, right? What more noble cause than to serve those who really need our help, generally need our help, right? And if that's the meaning she applies to that event, to really focusing on her child, you know, these relationships around her will probably get better anyway, because people will see that in her and see the love she has for a child, right? And when those people come towards her, they'll feel that. And that's really what we're trying to get to. Or Jillian, I've learned I'm way too concerned with what other people think of me. I should be more concerned with my daughter feeling overwhelmed when she has meltdowns, right? Let's say the event for her is her daughter having meltdowns in public, right? If she reinterprets that as this is who she is, and that's okay. My job when this happens is to not really focus on them, is to focus on her and to help her get through that event, right? And the meaning she can apply to that is I'm a good mother, right? Jillian can stand there with her and stand strong with her daughter as she melts down in public. And if people look at her wrong, she can recreate that event in her mind and say they're just watching because they are fascinated by what a great mother I am, right? And you see the smile on my face because those emotions that you elicit when you feel that way are very powerful. Or Cheryl, who said, I am sleep deprived and my patience is running thin. Between work and home, I'm running on fumes. As you can see right now, I'm kind of running on fumes because I'm getting tired, right? And my wife gets really upset at me sometimes because when she sees how tired I am, she'll say, sit down, and I'll say, you know what? I'm going to sleep good tonight, right? For me, tired does not connotate. The meaning of tired for me is that I'm putting in a good day's work. And that's what I want to do for my child. That's what I want to do for all my children. That's what I want to do in my job with my wife. I want her to put in a good day's work. If I'm not tired at the end of the day, exhausted, maybe I could have done more. And that's the way I reinterpret being tired and apply meaning to tiredness in my life. I am on fumes. And you know what? It's because it's 11 o'clock at night and all my family's in bed and I'm down here in the basement talking to you, right? And I'm still rejuvenated and buoyant and happy, and I feel fulfilled because I am tired, and tired is good for me. So remember those three things, E.M.E. It's event. How do you interpret the event? And you decide how you interpret that event. And what you want to do is decide to interpret that event in a way that elicits a good emotion, which is the final E. The second one is meaning. You can apply whatever meaning you want, even to things people say. If somebody says something rude to you, you can apply a meaning that says, he thinks I'm an idiot, or he's just out of his mind. And you can smile about it, right? You apply the meaning that you want to everything in your life. And again, the third one is emotion. What we're after here, very clearly, is a very powerful emotion. And if we can reinterpret events as they happen and apply good meanings to them, we can be buoyant and uplifted and happy. So I want to share one last story with you as I close, which is this. I was at a conference one time. I was doing some public speaking at a conference, and I was staying at my booth afterwards, and a lady named Martha walked up, and she was an older lady. And she said, I need your help. And I said, what can I do for you? And she said, well, my daughter has a son that's autistic, and she's basically dumped him on me. And my daughter goes out and does all kinds of stuff and has all kinds of fun, and she leaves him there with me, and I'm the one that's basically has to raise him, and it's hard, and I'm tired. What should I do? Right? And I think she was kind of surprised when I said, oh my gosh, that's fantastic. And she said, what? And I said, what a noble thing you're doing for your daughter and for that child. Obviously, her mother isn't mature enough to understand her responsibilities. But what a wonderful thing you're doing for that child and for your daughter. There is no more noble calling in this world to me than to serve those who really can't serve themselves properly. I said, I admire you. What you need to do is feel good about what you're doing and let it fill you up. Let it uplift you. You're a hero in this situation for that child. Without you, that child would be in serious trouble. And it really makes me happy to know he has you as a grandmother. So feel good about it. Let's go get him. Do what you need to do. Feel happy. Feel joyous. Let it uplift you when he does good things. When he doesn't do good things, change the interpretation of the event, apply new meaning to it, and make sure you elicit those powerful emotions. And as I was talking to her, she stood up straight and I could see a gleam in her eye because she knew. She knew what she was doing was noble. She knew what she was doing was valiant and that little boy needed her and she was there for him. So I just want to leave you with that, and I hope it's okay for me to do that on this video. It's just at the spur of the moment. You can see I'm just standing in my basement just doing this off the cuff because my wife told me to. She also told me to shave because I had a little bit of a beard going and she wanted you guys to be able to see my pretty face. Anyway, here's the deal. You decide. You decide to be tired, disgusted, frustrated, and with the same events happening in your life, you can change the interpretation of the event, you can change the meaning, and you can elicit powerful emotions. You decide how you feel based on what you do internally and how you act. And I promise you this, if you'll do these things, your kids, those that you're serving, will feel that from you. They'll feel that love. When you're patient and kind and loving, when they're having a meltdown, they know it. They feel it. Whether you believe it or not, I don't really care. I can tell my kids feel it. And at the end of the day, I feel great. Because you know what? I'm doing what's best for them. I'm managing myself in a way that allows me to be the best father I can be for them. So I want to leave that with you and let you know again, there's a series of 40 videos. If you go to thriveinchaos.net and watch the 3 videos, you'll see some introductory videos. And just do that today. Listen, let's get out there. Let these kids lift you because they can. Okay? You control how you feel. And I want you to feel happy. I want you to feel buoyant. I want you to thrive. I want you to experience joy and happiness as you raise these kids. We in our family are, and you can too. So hopefully that's been helpful. Hopefully you don't think I'm out of my mind. But anyway, I just wanted to do that for you. Thanks for watching, and hopefully go to my site, check out a couple videos. You never know what else I've got in store for you. Thanks a lot. I'll talk to you later, hopefully.